What's good, everybody? It's your boy Flock representing the game Illuminaughty, and we got another edition of the GI5. This time we are doing our top 5 favorite gaming consoles of all time. Now, when we say gaming consoles, we'll allow some people want to include handheld, so I'll allow it. So before we get started, I'm gonna let everybody say what up. We got the boy Anon, say what up to the people.
Yo, 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 what's going on?
We got the Ace of all trades, say what up.
What's up, everybody?
We got Jigga J's. I'm about to say Jay Z. Jigga J's. JG. Say what up to the people.
Hey, I like Devil Man Crybaby. Don't slander me.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Oh,
JG
man.
reaching for them cool points early, boy. You do not want that hate coming his way.
I had to do it, yo.
And Wakaichi all the way from Japan. Patreon supporter. Say what up.
What's up, y'all? I just left Houston. It was nice, but I'm back in Japan. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Y'all know how it go, man. We go from 5 all the way to 1. We go around the horn. Everybody give a really brief, really brief explanation as to why that console is their favorite, in that position, stuff like that. Y'all feel free to chime in the comment section if you want to be a part of these. We have tiers that allow you to be in these videos. We've said this all before. Link to that will be in the description to the GI Patreon, so y'all ready. Also, I have to say this again. If someone doesn't pick something you like, you got to realize you got a lot of different age ranges. So some people can go back further. Some people like what they like. Some people don't like what you like. So don't get triggered, man. I know some of y'all, you have to explain that to y'all, but y'all don't be listening. So we'll start with Anon. What you got,
What's
man?
up,
Your
man?
number 5.
My number 5, which might be to some people's surprise, it's kind of 2 and 1 because I kind of count the whole family, but the PSP/PS Vita, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Nice.
Because I feel like even though Sony didn't support it, like hardware wise and everything like that shit could have been the greatest shit ever. Like if Sony actually put a whole bunch of games on it, because everything they did put on it was like really fire. Like you got Crisis Core, which was on the PSP, that was awesome. Dissidia, which is getting put on the PS4. Dissidia was fire. Killzone was on the Vita for a little while, and that shit had awesome graphics. The PS Vita was able to remote play from the PS4, so you could play PS4 games like anywhere in the house on your Vita. Like, yo, the system was fire as fuck. It just wasn't supported, and it's just unfortunate because like it really would have destroyed anything Nintendo would have put out hardware wise, and it was innovating. And I would even argue that that shit was for the culture, but niggas sleep, so that's my number 5.
All right, true. JG.
My number 5 is going to be the Super Nintendo. The funny thing about this is this was a console that I actually did not physically own. Just always used to go over to people's house and play it. But it was a huge step up from the regular Nintendo, especially with the controller. It had Super Mario World, which was one of my favorite Marios of all time. It had Super Mario All Stars, had Castlevania, had Ninja Turtles. It was just a lot of games that at the time, even with the third-party titles, it just popped out and shined a little bit more on the Super Nintendo compared to the other consoles that were out at that time. So it just had a special place in my gaming heart. So that's my number 5.
All right. Ace.
My number 5 is actually, I'm gonna start off with the handheld, is the Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance was always a dope handheld to me. It was very fun, enjoyable. The Game Boy Advance was something that Nintendo perfected that Sega wanted to do with the Game Gear, but unfortunately couldn't do. If you guys remember the Game Gear was just a huge device that had like a very, very small screen, and the point with the Game Gear was it had a lit screen, so you actually can see it at night. But the problem was you had to have 8 batteries to power that big motherfucker up. So when the Nintendo dropped the Game Boy Advance, it killed it. It had a bigger screen, the battery life was so much better, and it had a lot of fun games. Pokemon, Mario, all that type of stuff. Like Game Boy Advance is definitely a fun game, and that was my number 5.
All right. I'll go, and then I will go over to Wakaichi. My number five is the Sega Genesis. That was that game came. I want to say, well, I know it was originally called the Mega Drive and all that, but
Right.
to me, it's the Sega Genesis because that's what it was called here in the states. So that game, man, I mean, it had a slick look. It definitely had a nice look, an innovative look for the time that it was out. I love the games on it. I still play those games to this day. Streets of Rage 2 is probably still one of my favorite games ever. Yeah, of course you had Sonic. You had Altered Beast. Yeah, it was a lot of different games, man. A lot of different games. I don't want to name too many, but like a lot of the Sega exclusive games. Yeah, they forced Nintendo to step the game up, and I mean a lot of people don't know this, but Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo was the original console war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was the original. It was like you either like it was like I was more of a Genesis dude, but I didn't have a problem with the Super Nintendo, but it was always like you either like one or the other. So it was just one of those things, man. You was considered cool, the cool kid if you had the Sega Genesis, and more of a a kitty kid if you had the Super Nintendo. But that one, that's my number five, the Sega Genesis, man. Awesome console, like I said, nice look, and I love the controller too.
Oh yeah, the 3-button controller. Dope.
Yeah. Wakaichi, what's your number five?
For my number five, is it okay if I group these two because it's the same console generation? Is that cool?
If you got an expiration behind it,
Go
go
for
right
it.
ahead.
All right, because I was gonna say the PS3 and the 360 because they were, to me, that was one of my.
I mean, if they're not one and the same, can you?
That's not the same thing.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah,
you can't-
that's a
yeah,
flag.
you
That's
can't-
definitely
yeah.
that's
You gotta
definitely
pick
that's
one or the
definitely a
other.
flag on the play, and I don't want the people like, yo,
Alright,
why y'all let them get
okay,
away with that?
You starting to
Alright,
start a war in the chat? Nah,
Pick one, Walker.
yeah, you gotta pick one, fam.
All right, yeah, the PS3 it had some bomb ass exclusives. You had the first Uncharted, and then the rest just kind of got conceded. You had the Last of Us. That game was fucking amazing, and it was just all in all a good system. You didn't have to pay for that. You didn't have to pay for that. What is that? You didn't have to pay for PlayStation Plus. Also, if you had wanted to use Wi-Fi, you didn't have to get that bougie ass antenna to put on the back of it like you had to do for the Xbox. What else? And yeah, it was just a overall good console. And it lasted a super long ass time. And yeah, you also didn't have to deal with that Red Ring of Death shit. So reliability. So yeah, that's my number five.
All right. Number four, we're gonna start with it. The ace of all trades. What's your number four, sir?
My number 4 is actually another older game itself. Console is the Nintendo 64. I mean, honestly, the Nintendo 64 itself, regardless of its interesting controller, and I'll just leave it at interesting itself, it produced some of the dope games that people are talking about even now to this day. You got Super Mario 64, you got Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, you got GoldenEye 007, Super Mario Kart 64. Like, there's so many good games that came out of it. Diddy Kong Racing, like, it's just a lot of games that came out for Nintendo 64, and it was definitely a dope console itself. The cartridge and everything like that. It was a fun console. It was really, really dope, and and it was definitely a win for Nintendo when they came out with the Nintendo 64. So that's my number 4.
All right, JG.
My number 4 was also going to be the N64. At the time, I did not care about how weird the controller was. I just kind of went with it, and I was younger too, so like again, that kind of just factored into why I didn't really care. This was another console that I did not physically own, but I played a lot of it. One of my favorite games, Perfect Dark, and of course GoldenEye. But I leaned a little bit more towards Perfect Dark, made by the same people. So and the wrestling games, man. WWO Revenge
and a WCW NWO Revenge. Was my game.
NWO.
I can't tell you how much time I spent on that, man.
Hours.
Just memories. The only
I still
only
got
reason
mine.
why.
Yeah, I still got mine too.
The only reason why I wouldn't rank it higher is because of their travesty with bringing in that expansion pack, because that was trash.
With
Just-
the red expansion pack that they had for Donkey Kong 64, you had to play it. You had to get the expansion pack to play the game itself. Yeah, that's
Thanks, Ace. Thanks.
I got
you. This man still jumping in. He want to explain more about why he chose the N64. But but that was only knock that I really have on it. Besides, obviously the controller with the thumbstick just being like absolutely terrible. But other than that, that was my number 4, man. Just a lot of memories with that.
All right, cool. Wakaichi.
Yeah, I was gonna do. Nah, I'm gonna say the PSP because it like what I mean, ain't I've covered a lot of the shit. I mean, what he was right with, like, Sony kind of fucked it over in America. In Japan, they like pedaled the shit out of the PlayStation, bro. Not the PlayStation, the PSP, and yeah, in America it kind of got fucked. But it was an amazing piece of hardware that didn't get the support it needed, and it could have been amazing, but yeah, it got fucked over. So there's that.
Okay. All right. I guess I'll go. For me, number 4 is the Xbox 360. Sure, it might be higher on some people's list. Then again, maybe not. Xbox 360 for one, the controller was the perfect controller. 2, the online Xbox Live is like top tier. It's always better than PSN in my personal opinion. The games, I had a lot of fun playing a lot of games, and hell, me and JG, we used to go out, play Halo 4 and what else did we used to play on that shit? Call of Duty and shit like that. So I mean, that's the system that a lot of friendships came about. You know what I mean? So with the online game, I know it wasn't the first system that people could play online with, but with me it was. So yeah, Xbox 360. Without getting too in depth about it, like I said, the Xbox Live, the games, the game library in itself, graphically it was great as well. So I gotta go with that one for my number 4. Anon.
For me, it's gonna be another handheld, and it's gotta be the Game Boy Advance.
Nice.
Game Boy Advance, that's where my childhood lives. That's where I played all my favorite Pokemon games. That's where I played Golden Sun and Golden Sun: The Lost Age, which are probably my favorite handheld video games of all time. I played so many, I just remember being in middle school playing all these late elementary school, early middle school, playing all these RPGs on my Game Boy Advance. Just I don't know, it's just my childhood, man. This shit was just awesome.
Alright, so that was number 4. We'll move to number 3, and we'll go with Ace. What's your number 3?
My number 3 was actually Flock's number 4, the Xbox 360. I don't need to go really much into it itself. The controller is amazing. People still use it to this day for their controller on the PC. A very optimal controller. The online itself, besides being called the N-word all the time on Call of Duty, the Xbox Live, Xbox Live it was just dope. Playing with the homies and everything like that. It was a fun console to have. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was dope. So that's my number 3, Xbox 360.
All right, JG.
My number 3 is also the Xbox 360. Just like Flock said, this was pretty much like my introduction into online gaming. A lot of friendships were made. My favorite games of all time, Halo 3 came out, and I'm still to the day, if you put me on there, I would still be a super tryhard at that game. I couldn't imagine any other console that collectively I spent so much time on. It's when you think back on it, it's kind of ridiculous. And the only reason why I would not rank the Xbox 360 higher is at the end of its life cycle, they really stopped coming out with exclusive. It got really bad. And I was like, well, why even have this thing anymore? But at the beginning, Microsoft was killing it with their exclusives. Gears, again, it was just some really good blockbuster franchises that they came out with. And the online, again, was just top notch. And I don't think that anything else, in this in this time period. It's probably gonna take a lot for a console, especially to reach like the magnitude of what the Xbox 360 did.
All right, hey now.
My number 3 is the Nintendo GameCube.
Ooh, nice.
Just because, yeah, no, I love that console, and that was like my early teenage years. But the I it didn't have online. Pretty much like the 2 games that I played on that I would still play today are Sonic Adventure 2 Battle and Super Smash Bros. Melee. But you know, besides that, I didn't really play too much on that. Like, I loved my GameCube, but you know, I can't have it go any higher simply due to the fact that like I didn't play too much stuff on it because I didn't really care for the Zeldas that came out.
Okay. All right. Wakaichi.
Yeah, for my number 3, I'm gonna go with the N64. That was my very first console, and I just remember just having a good ass time on that thing. Like when I was a kid, playing like Mario 64, going to the homie's house playing GoldenEye, talking shit. What was that? Oh, that was my introduction to Street Cheaters. Fucking GoldenEye. Oh god, amazing. What else is there? It's just really cool, solid system. The controller was meh, but you know, it worked somehow. And yeah, all in all, just amazing console.
All right. For me, my number 3, and this could have easily been my number 2, but I just decided to put it at number 3, is the Sega Dreamcast. This system, yo, it was ahead of its time. It was definitely innovative. This was the first console that you were allowed to go online and play online with. I know, what was it? Phantasy Star Online was the game that kicked it off. So, yeah, I mean, the launch titles were incredible. Even like, you know, that was the console that NBA 2K originally started on. At first, it was a console exclusive, NBA 2K. The NFL 2K games were amazing. Hell, you had, you know, Ready to Rumble, Crazy Taxi. They had a Sonic game on there too, right?
So that's where Sonic Adventure came from. Sonic Adventure.
Yeah, it had Sonic. It was a lot of games. I mean,
Power Stone.
Yeah, Power Stone was my shit, and I still got my Dreamcast to this day. It still works perfectly fine. I mean, it just sucked at the downfall. You know, I mean, of course, Soul Calibur, that was another game. Like, I could just name games for days for that system because I had like all of them. You know, House of the Dead. Fucking, you know, it's just, you know, and then my favorite Resident Evil game, which is Code Veronica, you know, it was on there too. So that game, it just, you know, it just suffered a real tragic fate. I mean, the fact that their discs, where you can burn their discs with CD-ROMs, you know, CDs and stuff like that.
I think that's the most pirated. It was the most pirated console for games, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, and I ain't gonna lie, I got some too, but that was after he went under, so I just did that like a few years ago. But you know, it was just, you know, it was just definitely a great system, man. That just didn't last as long as it could have. I mean, it only lasted maybe 2 years, so it didn't last that long. And then with the announcement, the way they went out there with the announcement of another system that came out right after it, you know, it just, you know, it just went down. So that's my number 3. We'll go over to for number 2. We can go to JG.
Alright, my number 2 is going to be the Sega Genesis. This was the very first console that I've ever owned, so obviously it's special to me. It was just, I just feel like at the time that the Sega Genesis came out, it was just like mind-blowing to me, the things that you can do on that thing. Of course, Sonic was one of my favorites that came with the console. Vector Man again was one of my favorites. Streets of Rage 2. I just had so much fun on these games. Spider-Man, Maximum Carnage.
Yes. Oh yeah, that was like, dope. That was so dope.
That was the one you could play with Venom,
beat 'em
right?
up games. Yep. X-Men. It was just I could just name so many games that I just played nonstop. Street Fighter. So it was just like, again, at the time, there's just so many iconic games that I just really, really enjoyed. And I had the Sega Genesis for a long gas time before I upgraded. So that's my number 2.
All right. Number 2 for A9. What you got, bro?
For my number 2, it was the PlayStation 2. This is one of two consoles in my entire life that uh, I didn't have a job and I had to pretty much like hustle and
It was
figure
worth it.
out,
Mhm.
yeah, you know what I'm saying, a way to like get this shit. And I got it late, and I never forget when I first got it, I didn't have a memory card. So I just beat all of
Oh,
Kingdom Hearts
man.
2 in one sitting.
Oh my god.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Jesus.
Yeah. That's how much I
Jeez.
wanted it. That's how much I wanted to play Kingdom Hearts 2. Like, if I want one game strongly enough, I will buy a con. I'm the person who will buy a console for one game if I want it that bad. But
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
That's amazing.
yeah, I beat Kingdom Hearts 2 in one sitting, and then I got a memory card and I started to play Star Ocean, and I put so many hours into that PlayStation 2. I played so many goddamn games. It was probably the biggest time waster in my teenage years, next to my number one console. So, you know, there's too many memories on that thing for me not to put it at number 2. That shit's had too much of an impact on my life.
All right. Number 2, Waukee.
Yeah, for my number 2, I'm gonna go with the original Xbox. It was the original Xbox. What did I play on? Oh yeah, I remember playing the what was it called? But it was if you could like have your own like house, like your own crib and shit. I forgot what it was called. I remember Mike Vick was OP as fuck on that game. It wasn't. I know it wasn't 06. I didn't. What else? Yeah, great console. I spent a lot of time on that console as a kid, and yeah, I just wanted to definitely give it a spot on the list. So yeah.
All right. I'll go with my number 2, and that is also the PlayStation 2, like A9. That game, man, it was part of the reason why the Dreamcast went under. Because it was just so that system came out, it was so high in demand. I remember when that Madden came out, everybody wanted that. It was so many different games. Of course, you know, it introduced God of War, which is one of my favorites on there. I remember Grand Theft Auto 3, which changed the way people looked at games. While you know, people was blaming a lot of violence on video games and stuff like that. I remember that. In fact, I remember this chick bought that for me for Christmas too. That was tough. It's kind of tight. She was older than me too. Yeah, Playboy shit. But yeah.
I hate this dude. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, the controls were nice. I mean, graphically at the time, it was up there. It was yeah. I mean, it was just the all around like, and it has by far the largest library, if I'm not mistaken, of any console. I could be wrong, but then again, I'm sure I'm right. But if I'm right, I'm quite sure my number 1 is got the biggest library. If the PS2 doesn't, but I got a lot of games on this system. I still have my PS2 to this day, and I still play it. I mean, I love playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance on this damn thing. Like, I play it with my son from time to time. So, the PS2, man. Nothing much you could say. I know it's probably a lot of people's favorites, but for me personally, it's my number 2. So that's just gonna have to be good enough for everybody. That's my number 2, the PS2. Moving on to Ace.
My number 2 is actually my very first console. It's the Super Nintendo. I did have the original, then NES, but I got the Super Nintendo first as a Christmas present, and I was in love with it ever since then. Like the game's just so dope. Like, it was so much fun playing it. It produced one of my favorite controllers of all time. I thoroughly enjoy the Super Nintendo's controller itself. And I do have the SNES Classic as well. I just got it for the nostalgia fact. I'm just gonna keep it real with you. It produced so many good fun, great games, good memory, and everything like that. So that is my number 2, Super Nintendo.
Okay. Matter of fact, while we at it, we can go right back to you for your number 1, Ace.
All right. So my number 1's already been said already, but it's the PlayStation 2. Like Flock said, like the library on the PlayStation 2 was just so tremendous. It was just so many games that came out. And when it came to Sony exclusives, you got Ratchet and Clank, you got Sly Cooper, you got God of War, You got Jack and Daxter, like, and that's just naming some of them. And those games came out for the PS2 itself. It just had so many great times with the PS2. Now the console itself being so bulky and everything, it really bothered me. I actually thought that the PS2 Slim was really, really dope, and I enjoyed the.
I had both.
I got both of them.
I had the Slim.
Yeah, I got both of them. And the one thing about, that one thing when it came to Sony and PlayStation, for the PlayStation 2, when you get to the loading screen, if any of y'all ever understand, when you would sit there and you would think a disc doesn't work, but then all of a sudden you see that PlayStation 2 on the screen and you'd be like, oh my God, it worked. It's one of the most satisfying gaming feelings ever. PlayStation 2 is definitely my favorite console of all time. It just produced so many great games, and that's my number one.
All right, Wakaichi, what's your number one, bro?
Just a quick honorable mention. I would just like to put the PS4 in there, but only in the beginning. Whenever they're first revealing it, and they just kind of like shat all over Xbox. That was hilarious. But for my number one, I am fortunately the same as Ace. The PS2, man. Yeah, I think that was the console I spent the most time on during my childhood, if I'm not mistaken. Just a fucking amazing console. I'll say, it's just, honestly, I can't really say. There's not really much for me to say because like everybody already touched on it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just awesome console, man. A lot of my years gone on that damn thing.
Okay. All right. Anon.
Number one. It's already been said. Xbox 360. And the reason for that is it had everything that I feel like put the other consoles in my top 5, and it had the online factor to it. I've made so many real life friends just from being connected online with people in, on the Xbox 360. Like a friend of mine last year had a wedding, and I went to his wedding and I met this dude on Battlefield Bad Company. Like, that shit was literally my whole teenage years. Like, it was just like every day when I would get home from school, when I was in a position where, because I moved when I was like 17, so I didn't know anybody, and I just wasn't trying to fuck with anybody. So every day I would just come home, and since I didn't have nobody to talk to or anything like that or vibe with, I would just always be on Xbox 360. Like, shit was lit, and and I bought my 360. That's the second console that I saved up money to buy for Mass Effect, and Mass Effect is one of my favorite, video game trilogies of all time. So,
shit. JG.
My number one is also the PS2. I would give an honorable mention to the Dreamcast because I remember when I begged my mom to go and get that just so I can play Power Stone because again my homies had it. And I was like, all right, I want one. I got to get a Dreamcast, but RIP to the Dreamcast because the PS2 ended up dominated, and I was like, well, I got to get a PS2 now, and I got it specifically so I could play Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And just the Grand Theft Autos period were just the reason why I thoroughly enjoyed it. That was back when they had the exclusivity to that, at least for the third one.
Right.
I never played that one, and I got it.
For real?
Yeah, we just talked about that before. That's
I got
crazy.
that game. I've never played it.
Yeah, because Grand Theft Auto was
Vice City is
PlayStation.
Dope.
At the time, and then the second one ended up being on the Dreamcast randomly, which I was like, okay. And Kingdom Hearts, that was also an exclusive to the to Sony back then. So they had some games. They definitely had some third party titles.
Never played that either.
First party titles that were exclusive. That was back when I really started paying attention to what was exclusive and what wasn't. And I used to be a Sony fanboy back in the day. I ain't even gonna lie. When I got
what Xbox Live's Avatar used to be a Sony.
I ended up getting the 360 because I thought the PS3 was trash, but I used to definitely be a Sony fanboy until the 360 ended up just wowing me. But
they definitely had the better ports of the two.
Absolutely, they did. So that's another reason why I ended up getting it. But yeah, the PS2, man, like what more can I say about it that hasn't already been said? It was just freaking amazing ass console for its time, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
All right, for me, I got a couple honorable mentions. it's really hard to narrow stuff down to 5, but I mean, so I gotta shout out to some of the legends out there. Definitely shout out to the original Xbox. I love that system.
OG Xbox. Sure.
The Nintendo 64, of course, you gotta shout that out. I'm quite sure I'm forgetting something else, but I'm just trying to keep flowing with it. But I'll go with my number one is the Nintendo Entertainment System, the original, the OG Nintendo, and for this reason, that was my first console that I ever like really had. You know what I mean? So it was just like, of course, that's gonna play a part in it. The fact that the game library, if the PS2 isn't the largest library, I'm sure the NES is, as far as like having like the game library. I mean, of course, by today's standards, graphically it's not very good, 8-bit and stuff like that. But at the time, I mean, Super Mario Brothers, that system really brought back, you know, video games, because Atari, we all know about how a lot of people don't know, but Atari, when what was that ET stuff happened with that ET video game, people did not want to invest in video games because they felt like it was just a really shitty port of arcades or movie adaptation games and stuff like that. It didn't live up to, but Nintendo scratched that and they made it, you know, they made it the phenomenon it is today. And Nintendo's still kicking, man. Yeah, they've had a couple flops like the Wii U, and but I mean, they going back. They back on track. They back on track now. You know, with the Switch. So, you know, I just felt like the Nintendo was definitely games. I mean, I had some of my favorite games to this day are still on. Like I said, Super Mario Brothers, the original Legend of Zelda, Contra.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? A lot of different games.
Punch
I mean,
Out.
it brought you Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Ninja Gaiden. A lot of these game series that you playing now, hell, Metal Gear that you play now, they started on the Nintendo. So. And I played that system as a kid, being like 8 years old, bro. Like, I mean, it's just what it is, man. It takes me back, man. It's like simpler times, yo. It really does. So, for that reason alone, the NES is definitely my number one, because, like I said, I had so much fun playing it. Tecmo Bowl, I can't forget about that too. Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson, the ultimate cheat.
Bo
the
Jackson.
ultimate cheat.
So there we have it, man. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Like I said before, link to the Patreon is in the description if you want to be in the tier to take part in one of these videos with us. I'll let everybody say their goodbyes, and we're going to end this. Ace.
All right, peace out, everybody. Appreciate y'all coming through as always. Thank you for the support.
A9, unmute yourself. Say peace out to the people.
Gang, gang, gang. War in the East. You know what I'm saying? Go listen to that.
Sure.
Okay. All right, JG.
Bye.
All right, the guest, Wakaichi.
You know, thanks for having me on. And yeah, your boy's doing work this tournament. I'm fucking going 5-1. Hopefully gonna go 6-1 tomorrow. But yeah, out here. I'll say. And yeah, later.
All right, and in closing, I just want to let y'all know that I am the anime god. Y'all don't believe it.
Oh man.
Check my resume. I'm 2 episodes in, boy, and I'm already the best at it out here on this animation. No, I'm just playing, man. Y'all be easy out there, man. Appreciate everybody that took time to listen to this video. Hopefully, man, some of y'all favorites it took y'all back, or if it's something that you haven't even checked out before, it tempts you to go find you one. You know what I mean? I mean, they got other ways of getting the stuff. I'm not gonna say it on here, you know, but you know, I still got all my old consoles. I'm gonna just say that. So it's definitely worth checking out, man, because a lot of these newer games are trash and not worth your money. So go back and play some of that older stuff, man. Or if you haven't played in a while, man, get some of that nostalgia feeling. We out, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Later.